Stealth might just be the most popular playstyle in Horizon Forbidden West, and for good reason. But even though most players understand the basics, putting together the best stealth builds isn't as straightforward as you might think. Of course, there are some obvious choices for legendary endgame builds, but to really get the most out of a stealth build, we have to get a little more creative. Early and mid-game builds are also particularly tricky to figure out, and I think more valuable to see. So let's check out all the ultimate stealth builds to take your stealth gameplay to the next level. The basis for any build is, of course, skills, and we have 9 different stealth ones to balance, plus a few others to consider leveraging as well. If you want to deep dive on those, I'll link my stealth masterclass video in the pinned comment below. But the most important skill to max out is definitely low profile. Other high priority ones include Silent Strike Plus, Stealth Ranged Plus, and Stealth Tear Plus. The obvious endgame outfit choice is, of course, the Utaru Winterweave for Sail in Thornmarsh. Between its 6 built-in skill perks and 2 default weaves, the Winterweave lets us max out 8 of the 9 stealth skills. The only one we're missing is Stealth Tear Plus, which isn't a big deal since you'll have plenty of high tear weapons in the endgame anyway. So starting with the Winterweave is a solid choice. However, I would consider the true ultimate stealth build to actually be a stealth low health hybrid. I broke down how the super strong low health build works in another video, and I'll link that below in case you want to check it out. But the main low health skill we want to leverage is low health ranged, which at max level 4 boosts damage by a massive 80% when we're below 50% health. Now, we could slap the low health ranged weave from the Nora Valiant on the Winter Weave to get this benefit, in which case I would swap it with the default Silent Strike Gain Weave. But the problem is the Winter Weave has a built-in Silent Strike heal perk. This causes us to heal anytime we use Silent Strikes, deactivating our low health ranged boost. So this might seem a little strange, but we're actually going to use the purple Nora Tracker outfit, also found in Thornmarsh. Its set of skill perks includes low profile, Silent Strike Plus, and Quiet Spirit, which are all important for a well-rounded stealth build. Quiet movement is nice to have too, but just know that you can get totally silent movement by crouch walking anytime. For weaves, we'll use the low health ranged weave from the Nora Valiant and Stealth Ranged Plus from the Winter Weave to max those skills out. So we're getting an 80% damage boost from low health ranged and a 40% damage boost from Stealth Ranged Plus. To leverage those boosts, we're definitely going to want a sharp shot bow for high impact damage. For maximum damage, Ear of Downfall is the clear choice with its elite precision arrows and excellent set of perks. However, I would argue the Gravesinger's Lament from the Burning Shores DLC is a more balanced choice. Those elite arrows on Earhooves are expensive, and they're honestly overkill even on Ultra Hard. The Gravesinger has the strongest advanced precision arrows in the game, and they're not too far behind Earhooves Elite. Plus, the Gravesinger has strike-through precision arrows, which are excellent against armored human enemies. The multiple enemy damage perk is difficult to utilize, but stealth damage, overdraw damage, instant brittle, and draw speed are all solid. For coils, I'm going to leave a link below for my video on the best ways to coil every weapon. This video will get super long if I go into coil recommendations for everything, and I already have comprehensive recommendations in that video. I'll also link a site where you can find locations for all the gear we're talking about. But as we go through the weapons here, I will show you them with my recommended coils. Like the full set of 25% stealth I have here on the Gravesinger, and I'll discuss specific coil sets that need a bit of explanation. Oh, and if you're wondering how I got so many copies of all these coils, I'll link my video for that down below as well. Now, if you haven't gotten to the Burning Shores DLC or done New Game Plus yet, you might be tempted to go with the Forge Fall, but the Delta actually has higher base impact damage and those strike-through precision arrows like the Gravesinger. True, it only has 3 coil slots, but I still think it's a better option than the Forge Fall. It also has inexpensive regular precision arrows, a stealth damage perk, and as of patch 1.26, still has its hidden draw speed perk. So if you're on your first playthrough before Burning Shores, skip the Forge Fall and use the Delta until you can get the Gravesinger. Regardless of which sharp shot bow you choose, to get an additional 30% damage boost, we'll use Focus Shot as our weapon technique. You could use Double Notch for a 40% boost, but it's very difficult to land both arrows on a component or weak point. Focus Shot is much more consistent. To push damage even higher, we're also definitely going to want a Frost weapon to get up to a 2 times impact damage multiplier from the Brittle State. The Sun Scourge is always always a good option with its extremely powerful advanced frost arrows, but it's easy to run out of the required volatile sludge quickly. So a good alternative is the Skyhammer Blast Sling from the Burning Shores. The bombs are much cheaper to craft, and with elite frost coils providing an instant freeze chance, even the elemental pools on the ground can instantly frost enemies with a bit of patience. However, I'm going to go with a more unconventional option here and load up the Death Seeker with 3% instant brittle chance coils. This gives us a 15% chance to instantly freeze enemies with super cheap hunter arrows. So we basically just spam them until we get the brittle state. Plus, it lets us freeze enemies regardless of their resistance to it. You can also do this on a warrior bow, which is actually my preferred method for faster firing, but I think the extra range from a hunter bow is better for a stealth build. And we're using the Death Seeker specifically because it also gives us access to shock arrows, either for applying the state directly or by triggering canisters. To tear off weapons and components super easily, we're going to use the Tears of the Land God Hunter bow from New Game Plus. The concentration, component tear, overdraw, and draw speed perks are always useful, and long range can come in handy too. If you find yourself often closer to enemies or transitioning from stealth to melee, then the Emperor's Reign is also a great option. Whichever one you choose, triple notch is our preferred weapon technique for advanced hunter arrows. Remember, you can actually preload arrows with triple notch, switch to another weapon and use it, and then switch back to that ammo you preloaded and it will still be triple notched. You just can't switch to another ammo on the same bow. Also keep in mind, since we have 2 hunter bows in our build, we can actually preload 3 arrows on both to disable multiple components quickly, like both Thunderjaw disc launchers. Continuing on with our build, the last 3 weapon slots are more preference based, but I think most stealth players would certainly enjoy having a ropecaster in their loadout, and the Tie That Binds from the Burning Shores is by far the strongest option. Ropecasters are incredibly useful for immobilizing machines, which is super helpful when dealing with groups of enemies in particular. If you haven't arrived in the Burning Shores yet, then the elite ropecaster from Thornmarsh is very strong as well. I'll link my ropecaster masterclass video below if you want to learn how to use them most effectively. For weapons 5 and 6, we have a few different options. You could grab another sharpshot bow like Iriv's or the Forgefall and coil it for tear. A spike thrower like the Last Argument or Vindicator will give access to some powerful spike traps, as well as drill spikes for triggering knockdowns. Although Aloy standing up to throw makes spike throwers tough to use from stealth. My top recommendation would actually be an elemental blast sling, but not for the reason you would think. See, you can use bombs as a sort of long-range rock to attract enemy attention and bunch them up. It doesn't work very well on machines, but it does work well on humans. If you didn't already go with the Skyhammer earlier, then we could slot that in here. I'd primarily use the fire bombs on human enemies, but this also gives you another frost option for machines. Legacy's Reach is also a good option, as acid is pretty strong against human enemies, dealing damage over time and causing their armor to eventually fall off. Not to mention, you'll get access to the strongest explosive bombs in the game. Not exactly a stealthy option, and advanced bombs are pretty expensive, but there's no denying they're strong. In the final slot, we'll go with the Karja's Bane Warrior Bow, coiled with elite crit coils to maximize damage. This one isn't for stealth at all, but when we inevitably have to fight in the open, having a warrior bow for raw damage with super cheap ammo is really handy. You will want to know how to fire them fast with the spread shot weapon technique though, so I'll link my warrior bow masterclass video below where I break down exactly how to do that. So my ultimate stealth build consists of the Nora Tracker with the Stealth Range Plus and low health ranged weaves. On the weapon wheel, we have the Gravesinger's Lament Sharpshot bow for high damage snipe shots, the Death Seeker Hunter bow with those instant frost coils, the Tears of the Land God for tearing off components, the Tie That Binds Ropecaster to easily immobilize machines, the Skyhammer to lure enemies and as another frost option, and the Karja's Bane for cheap and fast damage. Remember, to get the most out of this build, you'll want to remain below 50% health to trigger the 80% damage boost from low health ranged. Getting yourself down to a low health state can be a bit tricky though, since the typical method, damaging yourself with a blast sling bomb, isn't exactly stealthy. So instead, we'll use the Defy Death Valor Surge from the Burning Shores. This gives us a more elegant and, more importantly, a quiet way to enter the low health state. Plus, it gives us another 50% damage boost. Another Stealth Valor Surge option, and probably the most popular one, is Stealth Stalker. Being virtually invisible is super cool, and it's a lot of fun using this one to clear rebel camps in particular. However, just be aware that you can't actually get critical hits on non-alerted enemies while Stealth Stalker is active, which means your first shot or two can't crit. Once the enemy is alerted, you can hit crits again, but not while they're unaware or suspicious. This might seem like an obscure point, but a full set of crit chance coils on a sharpshot bow is super strong, so it's actually fairly significant that Stealth Stalker nerfs crits like this. And it's why I recommend coiling your sharpshot bow bow with stealth coils if you're going to use Stealth Stalker a lot. Other good Valor Surge options include Power Shots, Chain Burst, and Ranged Master, though Ranged Master heals you, so that one doesn't work very well with our low health range tactic. Okay, now let's run through some alternative gear options and builds for earlier in the game. If you don't like the idea of using the Nora Tracker for the ultimate build, you certainly can go with the Winterweave. As long as you don't use Silent Strikes much, you'll still be able to leverage low health ranged. Another legendary option would be the Quen Deadeye. I would put the low health ranged and Silent Strike Plus weaves on here. Keep in mind you can make pretty much any outfit into a bit of a hybrid stealth build by adding the low profile weave to max out that skill. For example, the Nora Thunder Warrior makes a pretty solid stealth build with this, as it already has Stealth Range Plus, and the concentration perks are helpful for stealth. For the second weave, I'd add either low health ranged or Silent Strike Plus. Unfortunately, in the mid to late game, good stealth outfits aren't easily accessible and upgradable. Like I mentioned, slapping the low profile +2 weave on pretty much any outfit will make it into at least a stealth hybrid. But that weave comes from the Tanakh Tactician outfit in Thornmarsh, and realistically, you're not going to buy and upgrade that to get the weave until the endgame. You can pick up the Utaru Hardweave in Lowland's Path or the Utaru Warden by completing the second first side quest with Zoe, but at that stage of the game, I think you're better off picking up the Nora Valiant and investing in upgrading it. It's a solid all-arounder, and you can make it into a stealthier build by adding the low profile +1 weave sold in Scalding Spear. I'd stick with the default low health ranged weave, but if you don't like the low health playstyle, then you could swap it with the stealth ranged +1 weave sold in Plainsong or the stealth tear +1 weave from the Nora Champion outfit. Don't worry about remembering where all these weaves are, by the way. I'll leave a link to my coil and weave spreadsheet down below. As for weapons, the Delta would be my pick for a Sharpshot bow and the Sunshot for tear. The Secret Hunter bow and Rampart Blastling are both good frost options. Of course, the Elite Ropecaster is always good to have, and the Death Rattle Warrior bow is good for damage. Earlier, you can pick up the Utaru Harvester in Plainsong. For weaves, you'll want that Stealth Tear +1 weave, and I'd grab the low health range +1 from Scalding Spear. Or you could use the Silent Strike +1 from Plainsong if you don't like low health. The Nora Sentinel can also work well for a stealth build, and you can pick it up really early in Barren Light. Use the low profile +1 weave and either low health range +1 or stealth tear +1. The Sun Touched and Slicing Hunter bows are both great options for tear in the mid game. I like the Icefire Blastling for frost, but you can pick up the Frost Hunter bow earlier, which is worth having to trigger canisters. You'll get the Cleaving Sharpshot bow for free during the Broken Sky main quest, and it's particularly helpful for tearing off components at this stage of the game. But for damage and strike-through arrows, you might want to clear the Hive Rebel Camp for the Piercing Sharpshot bow. If you want a Ropecaster at this stage, the Eventide and Anchor are roughly equivalent, and the Melee and Shearing Warrior bows can deal some decent damage if you're willing to get the resources to upgrade one of them. In the earliest stages of the game, your best option for a stealth outfit is the Nora Champion, with its Stealth Ranged Plus perk and Stealth Tear Plus weave. Honestly though, I would buy the Nora Sentinel in Barren Light and start investing in that, like we mentioned earlier. The Whisper Hunter bow is also for sale here, and with its maximum 65% stealth damage perk, it's definitely worth investing in. The basic Sharpshot bow from Chainscrape is worth grabbing to deal some higher damage. You'll be stuck with the Frost Blastling for a bit as your best option for frost, but you can pick up that Frost Hunter bow fairly early. It's probably not worth messing around with any of the green warrior bows for damage at this point, and don't bother with the basic Ropecaster, it's just not strong enough. Instead, I'd fill out your remaining weapon slots with bows that give you elemental arrows to trigger canisters, as that's going to be your most effective way to apply elemental states early on. If you guys found these build breakdowns helpful, leaving a like would be awesome. And if you want to dive deeper on stealth mechanics to truly master the playstyle, then you're going to want to check out my Stealth Masterclass right here. I've also got all those other videos I mentioned linked below. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.